All right, you're now tuned into the Rotated Views podcast, episode number 16, Helping Hand. I am your host, Jimmylee Velez. I am here with the full crew. We got Gabe, Goose, Heck, and Manny.
Yep.
In this episode, we discuss helping others, memorable moments of help, the gratitude received as payment, and helping the homeless. We wrap this episode up with quotes from the Dalai Lama and Simon Sinek. All right, if you're new to this podcast, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to download and subscribe. Every Tuesday morning, we have a new release, a new episode. This is episode number 16. We want to thank you again for joining us, and we kick off every episode with a short story. This one's titled A Helping Hand, taken from values.com. So we're going to jump right in. She had been bleeding all day. She was my good friend and closest professional colleague at the time, back in the 70s. It had been her first day back at work after some surgery, and I guess she should have taken a few more days to recover. As soon as work was over, she and I headed to the emergency room and spent hours there waiting to be seen. Once I got her settled, I had to leave her in my apartment a while. I dashed off to take a final exam for a very important evening class I was taking. Upon my return, I decided Liz was in good enough shape to sustain a trip back from my Northern Virginia apartment to her home in Maryland. It was nearly midnight and we were both exhausted. Once on the highway, in a not particularly safe part of town, we heard my car make a funny noise, and then it was shaking violently as we drove along. Quickly, I pulled off to the shoulder and determined a tire had blown out. Never have changing a tire before, I went about trying to figure out what to do next. Liz, weak from losing all that blood all day and weighing only about 80 pounds to begin with, hopped out and tried to help me. I had to scream at her to get back in the car and relax. Within seconds, a taxi pulled up behind us and a huge man emerged and began walking towards us. I am certain the blood drained from my face and I nearly fainted in fear. Got a flat there, girls? In no time at all, this kind person had changed my tire and rushed off back to his taxi. He refused any form of payment and would not even tell me his name. He will never know the extent of how badly we needed his services that particular evening, but I, for one, will never forget his kindness. All right, so this episode obviously is titled Helping Hand. This short story is titled A Helping Hand, and it's kind of incredible the power of the human being when we actually do reach out and give someone a helping hand selflessly. A lot of times we're so involved in our own lives, and rightfully so, because there's so much going on and we're controlling our own destiny. But at the same time, seeing the kindness and patience and understanding from an individual, it's a level of maturity that is it's amazing when you see it happen. And this story kind of encapsulates all that. Taxi driver driving by, seeing two ladies, not even knowing what they had experienced that entire day, stop. Took time out of his busy schedule, because if you're a taxi driver, you know every minute is valuable. You're waiting for that next phone call, for that next ride. And I changed a couple flat tires in my life. Took me probably longer than an average person, but I'm going to say about 15 to 20 minutes probably. I'm not sure. Is that what you guys think? About 15 minutes to change a tire? It might be faster if you're NASCAR drivers. That's about right. Yeah, but dude, you got to crank the thing, it's up.
First, it's locating all your equipment. Where the jack is,
sure.
The spare tire, and that's if you don't know your car.
Yeah.
Some people like this lady, she didn't know how to do this ever.
Yeah.
She would have never known where her stuff was at. Like, she probably wouldn't know to look underneath the floor mat thing in the back of the trunk. Or
it's where they stay now most of the time.
Yeah.
But not even that. I mean, if you've ever, everybody's on a highway. If you ever watch somebody change their tire, all right, I've actually caught a guy taking his tire, not even jacking the car, but already stripping the lug nuts, taking it off. I'm like, oh man, he's really gonna damage his car. So a lot of people just don't know, like, to jack up the car, get it up off the air, and then loosen the lug nuts to get the tire off. They'll just do it right on the ground and just start torquing away. And I just sit there as I'm driving by, and I should be lending a helping hand. A lot of times I don't. I continue to move forward. But
yeah, you know what's funny when you were
that guy.
that? I laughed at one time. I saw it was called minimal maintenance class for anyone who's a new driver, and I'm like, what in the world would you do? I guess obviously
that's exactly it. Show you where your dipstick goes for the oil, because some people they'll take it out to check it. They don't know where it goes.
Well, heck, you've picked me up one time when my car broke down. Was it a flat? Yeah, it was a flat. I just had a straight up flat.
Yes.
It wasn't even that. I was on the side of I-95. Anyone knows, coming off in between Street Road and the Bristol exit going northbound, and I pulled off to the right. You can't change a tire there. There's no my car barely fit. I was on the white line of the actual highway. There's nowhere to pull off. It was just you're stuck. You're just there.
Like there's no shoulder.
There's no shoulder. Yeah, it's just literally it was the width of my car.
You got out through the passenger side.
I got out through the passenger side. I jumped, mind you, I just came home from work, so I'm like suited and booted. I jumped over the rail, and I'm just standing there. Cars are flying by, going like however fast they're going.
75,
definitely past the speed limit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And my car was just rocking back and
shaking
forth.
back and
yeah,
forth.
and I'm like, oh, yeah. Heck, when are you coming, bud? Because this is intense. Seriously, but at that moment, all I could think of is like, dude, when is this kid going to get here? Holy smokes. It felt like forever. He got there within 15 minutes.
Right.
But it felt like it was 45 minutes because my eyes were peeled back and I'm just staring at the cars flying like however fast they were going. And I could imagine this lady, imagine actually what she's thinking. Her friend just came out of surgery who is, not in the best condition, about 80 pounds. So she's concerned about, thinking... meanwhile, she's taking the time out of her schedule to take care of her friend, and then her tire goes out.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're like, well, where's the good karma there?
Right.
But then this guy with the whole taxi driver thing pulls up and kind of saves the day and did it selflessly. I love that word.
I never know if you I've seen it multiple times. Obviously, driving on a highway, I've seen it multiple times where somebody's helping. I always wonder, is that a brother? Is that a dad? Is that an uncle? Right. Or was it just some random person? I always think oh man,
yeah.
Hopefully something good happens to that person. I won't stop.
It's true.
Won't.
So you wouldn't stop. You see someone
in that situation, no. If you're in a parking lot and I'm familiar with the area, but on 95, it's so close. Yeah. People aren't paying attention, either on their phones. You could be doing a good deed, and this is me being a pessimist, but you could be doing a good deed, and all of a sudden you get hit by somebody not paying attention. There's so many people who don't pay attention where I would be like, let me save my own hand rather than try to help somebody.
Absolutely. Or they're just watching what you're doing. You're pulling up,
right,
and they're not paying attention to what they're doing.
Exactly.
And boom, they're off the cliff or whatever the case may be, bumping into you or whatever.
Right. So, but no, in a situation like you're in a parking lot and somebody needs help, they look confused. Absolutely. But on a busy highway, I would I pass. I defer.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting too. The other thing is there's like towing companies that are waiting like at exits ready to.
Yes.
Was it State Farm? What's the red and white one?
That is State Farm.
There's
AAA.
AAA.
That's
AAA.
AAA
is the big one.
Okay, so AAA.
And Rob's was up there, wasn't it? Yeah. Rob's Towing.
Rob. So two towing companies pulled up within those 15 minutes. So I'm like, obviously either they're getting like a tip off or they're just sitting at exits waiting for someone to forget, because it's dangerous for someone to be pulled off anyway.
Yeah. Right. I mean, but AAA is like a membership type thing anyway. So if they're waiting, somebody called them generally for that.
Yeah, they're definitely on standby.
For some reason, I want to say State Farm.
Yeah, I'm sure that everybody's got them. All the insurance companies have them.
They have like a roadside assistance type thing.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let's say, would you guys stop? I look at that guy and say, "Good for you, bud." I just don't.
But sometimes you hear like the random stories of like people like pretend to be on the side of the road and like bad things happen. So sometimes you think about stuff like that and you just like keep on going. Just like unfortunate because you don't know those type of situations.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure they're few and far between, but
twice I got denied. Or not denied. They just said no. My my brother's coming, or I just called for towing. Whatever. Doesn't matter.
Stopped.
Yeah, but I wasn't on 95. It didn't happen.
Okay.
It happened like in the streets of. I think I was in Levittown, and one was in a parking lot. I just walked out the gym, and it was like an older guy, but he didn't look like he knew what he was doing. So I asked him like, "Do you need help, bud?" He's like, "No, my brother's coming or whatever."
Right.
And then the other one was, it was like on a random street, but it wasn't like a dangerous.
Yeah, it wasn't
So I pulled over and actually I was at a red light, really. Not trying to sound heroic. So I just pulled over. I actually yelled out the window. It wasn't like I walked out, introduced myself. Because, you know, some people they feel uncomfortable. I didn't want them to feel like, I'm like, dude, do you need help? I'll stop completely, or I pull over, I turn around or whatever. There was one time there's a hitchhiker. It was coming on I think I was on 413. 413. And it was pouring rain. I don't think this person didn't look like this was something they normally did, because they were like kind of well dressed or whatever. And it looked like they just got caught in the rain. So I remember pulling over like, yo, you want to ride, bud? And he said no, but I just kept driving. But
You did that?
yeah, wow. I actually no. In fact, I actually passed by him and turned around. You know what? You know what? I'm gonna tell you why. He was on the opposite side. You know what I'm gonna tell you why? Because I had an internship at Jean's Hospital. I think it was Jean's Hospital, and I had to walk from the train station to the hospital,
right.
And there was no sidewalk, and I remember getting caught in the rain twice for some reason, just like suited and booted, and I thought of myself in that moment like, dude, this is awful. And the one part was in the morning, so I went into this place. It was like the first or second time I'm meeting this guy for this internship. I had mud all over my dress shoes, and I just looked at him. He's like, "Did you take the train station or something? Did you walk here?" I remember him saying it was so obvious. There's nothing I do. I remember running into the cafeteria trying to get like napkins and water, but my khakis there was nothing I can do.
Right.
Like I cleaned off my shoes a little bit, but I just had made it on time.
So you internalized your experiences and was like, ugh, and you kind of made yourself feel bad for that guy to stop.
Well, so when I was walking and going, I was like, man, if I ever see someone going through this, I'm going to stop for them.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was the first time I ever seen it, but for some reason it triggered that moment where I was walking in from the train station to Jean's Hospital. And you got to see this. It's literally like, it's a beautiful neighborhood. There's no sidewalks though. You ever see those neighborhoods? It's just like a driveway and then just a mailbox. There's no sidewalks. And it's like the speed limit on the street was about like 40 miles per hour. So these guys are humming. So I remember running across the street, then running back because I'm trying to look at the gap on properties where there's enough space so I can, stay away from. At one point I was literally walking like in a forest. It was just like a bunch of trees. It's like, oh, dude, that's why I said it was pouring rain. I'm like, dude, if I ever see someone walking, I'll try anyway if I can.
I was that I was that guy. In Bristol when you're going around through right before you hit the Rite Aid after you pass Bell Bridal.
Yeah.
Well, that part always floods. So I was that dude. I was driving but not paying attention. Like I don't know what I was doing, but I know there was people walking, and I splashed the living crap out of these two ladies. And all I hear them is screaming. Well, it was done raining, so they were walking. So I guess they waited for the rain to pass, and they were walking, I guess, home or whatever the case was, and I completely saturated them. Like, I was laughing. I'm like, dude, what an idiot. Like, completely. But I'm driving. I'm like, laughing, like, because I'm like, dude, I really just soaked these people. So it so happened that it fell back on me, though, because the same place, the same location, I was riding my bike and didn't think. Obviously, I don't know why I was riding my bike if I had my license. But I remember I was riding my bike on Pond Street, and that same thing happened, and the car just came by and soaked me all up. I was like, what the heck? I was like, I guess that's what happens when I splash this girl. So it was kind of karma, I guess, payback for it. Absolutely. It was funny, like, when it all happened, it was funny, and then I sit back and think about it. I'm like, dude, I was, like, wrong, because I didn't intentionally do it, but I, like, felt bad, I guess, like.
You didn't feel bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I did. No,
well, that same location, I was in 4th or 5th grade. I got drenched. So I left home, and I purposely left late because it was raining, and I had my saxophone with me. So I didn't want it to get wet, and there was nowhere I couldn't. The saxophone, the case is huge. You couldn't like just stuff it. It wasn't like a clarinet you could stick in your armpit and put it under, and run. So I waited, and my mom's like, well, I remember I'm like, what do I do? Like, you guys paid like $1,000 or $1,500 for this, metal device that I'm about to demolish with some like rain or whatever. She's like, just wait it out. I'll call the school, tell them you're gonna be late, and tell them why. Whatever. Okay. I wait. Of course, it stops raining. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. So I'm like walking, so cool. I'm like, I'm gonna take the long way. Just kind of take my time. I'm already gonna be late. Hey, I'm gonna be late. I'm walking, dude, don't you know, same thing. I mean, I saw this wave of water coming at me and I just froze. I'm like,
Over your head.
oh man. And went boom, just like crashed on top of me. And I remember being so mad. I didn't even know what to do. At this point, now I'm late, but I don't want to go home.
I would have went home.
Yeah, I don't want to go home because now I feel like my mom's like, oh, you definitely just made that up. There's no way you got, you know, I'm like, it's
Jumping
not
in
even
puddles.
believable at this point now.
Right.
So I remember just going to school and just running into the bathroom, getting paper towels and drying off the case that actually protected the saxophone. Nothing ever got wet inside, but that same corner though, that same bend.
Yeah, that bend's
Bad sewage.
Yeah.
Bad sewage.
But, all right, so moving along, dictionary.com is going to help us define the term word help, which means to give or provide what is necessary to accomplish a task or to satisfy a need, contribute, strength, or means to, render assistance to, cooperate effectively with, aid, assist. All right, so with that being said, that was a cool short story. Great input. Now we know the actual definition. Let's jump right into segment number 2, which is titled Questionable. What was a memorable time when someone or a group of people lended a helping hand to you or to your family? So I'm just going to jump right into this one. It's one that will forever stay in my mind for as long as I live. My father, as you guys all well know, passed away from pancreatic cancer, and a lot of times people do, you know, like the whole beef and beer thing to help raise money to pay for medical expenses, etc. It was so obviously we did the whole beef and beer thing. It was, the turnout was one thing, right? There was people from all over our town, surrounding towns. Fantastic turnout. We raised a lot of money, helped out my parents. It went as bad as smooth as they go. The auctions went great. My mom gave kind of like a little speech thanking everyone. Just seeing everyone come together, and then you could physically see the generosity and kindness kind of, you know, come together and for a good cause. And that was absolutely fantastic. But the thing that always will get me is we call our group of cousins Team VC. Team VC, V stands for Velez, C stands for Cuevas. So the group came together in ways that I don't think we could, me, Mike, and Heck could, or my family could ever repay. It was, the girls went out of their way making phone calls and getting, sponsors to help us and people to donate different things. And the guys went out and were picking up stuff for us and were using their trucks and setting up the tables, and someone went and got balloons, and then someone went and got the tables, and they're setting things up. And my good buddy Mike Velez donated his time to be the DJ. It was just a group of people that came together to actually made it all possible. It was just unreal. I think when it comes to beef and beer, the expensive part is getting the beer. I even think the beer was donated. It was like so many cases. Remember that? Manny's wife Jen got some like type of hookup or whatever. Dawn Staley donated like a bat that was signed by was it Pat Barrel? I don't even know.
One of the Phillies.
Same Pat Barrel.
Yeah.
But Deshaun Jackson, he helped donate something. His father,
jersey away.
Yeah, he gave a jersey away. His father passed away from pancreatic cancer. So Deshaun Jackson's a former Eagles wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, what's that?
Cedric the Entertainer.
Oh, that's right. Cedric the Entertainer donated
the hat brand or whatever.
And the beer.
The beer money.
Oh, so Cedric the Entertainer, thank you, Cedric, donated the funds for us to buy the beer. Obviously, he didn't ship them from California, but he sent over the funds because I remember we were going back and forth. Should we do kegs? Should we do cases or whatever? But it was that collaboration to make it all happen. When I thought of the helping hand, because without any of that, people donating baskets, right? Because you had to put all these we had like 50 baskets.
Yep.
And it
Chinese
was like,
auction was called or something like that.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
silent
it was
auction.
like legit like baskets. It wasn't just, throwing like, 3 little lottery tickets in one thing and like, oh, let's do this. It was like Phillies tickets, Eagles tickets, Flyers tickets, signed apparel by professional athletes that were legit, athletes. Just the way it came together for me, that's what it was all about. I mean, that was what made it phenomenal. I will be forever indebted for the group of people that unselfishly came together for the greater cause, because they also knew, especially the close ones, the actual Team VC knew kind of personally what we're going through with, taking my dad. So it wasn't like we could, let's put up the spontaneous event because we have all the time in the world. We're all working full-time jobs, and I was working multiple jobs just to freaking, help out or whatever. But so it was like this understanding that was never said. It was kind of like everyone just kind of felt it and just provided or helped where they could. Mm-hmm. It happened. I don't know. I'm always blown away because how naturally it happened. Mm-hmm. And I think it had nothing to do with me, heck, or my mom. I think it was because the type of guy my dad was, and I feel like everyone knew he would drop anything at a drop to help someone else out, and it was seen. I mean, even the show up at his actual benefit, it was seen. Just the love that was there. I even remember we auctioned, or at the end of the day, at the end of the event, he had like the winning ticket or whatever, and it was like
50-50.
Yeah, like, oh, there you go, 50-50. So it was a 50-50, and I don't know, it was a decent amount of money. It was like $1,500 or $2,500. The person won, and it was a cousin of ours, and she didn't even take the money. She donated it back into the whole.
It back to us. Her and her husband,
yeah. And I was just like, that was just something, and that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't think people were there to like win a basket or win something or eat food or literally drink beer. I literally feel like they were there for the greater cause, but it was because of the individual that they were helping. I felt like,
yeah. I think that's what made the difference was the person they were helping out.
The event was I think even before that, the bigger undertaking was getting the team together and getting it done. I mean, it started with a blank piece of paper at Heck's apartment at that point. It was in your living room where we all got together, and it started off with a blank piece. What are we going to name it? What are we going to do with it?
It was your apartment.
I was about to say that.
It was your apartment on 413 or whatever you guys used to live. Brittany Springs.
Brittany Springs?
It was in your apartment.
It was in my apartment?
Yeah. I remember sitting on the floor. I was just going to say, it was at your apartment, yeah.
Oh. And it started off with scrap, and we're all in there, and it was just, and we did it. And then in 2 hours, a whole event turned out. And I thought that was like, damn. And nobody said anything. Look, this is happening, and everybody kind of showed up, and we started it, and it was good.
Yeah, I remember the barbershop was one of the locations to buy tickets. Dude, and seeing the people that I least expect come in and like buy tickets, purchase tickets, was like, it blew my mind. And some people were buying like a ticket per person in their family, which some of them weren't even going to attend. That was just their donation towards their donations towards the whole event. Right. Like that was like, they're not going to be there, so we'll just donate the $25 or whatever it was. Yeah. But yeah, it was crazy.
It was awesome.
So every I guess form of cancer nowadays has like an associated color with it. So pancreatic cancer's the purple, and so I think it was you, Manny, who said the whole it's gonna be purple night. I'm like, oh yeah, it's purple night. Like, we get it. And he's staring at it. He's like, no, like he could be like, and he's like our purple knight, like KNIGHT.
Knight in armor, yeah.
Knight in armor. And I'm like, whoa. It was like that double meaning thing. Just like, and this all happened, I'm going to say under 45 minutes. Yeah. And everyone just like took roles. Like, it happened so naturally that it was just unreal. So it was like the purple knight. And then now we still carry on his legacy. Sure. When we do the Team VC Family Phillies games, we wear our purple shirts, but in memory of Miguel A. Velez Jr. And it's just one of those things. It's like, dude, that's beyond that. It just brings me back to the original kind of statement and remark with saying it was all done because of the kind of person, I feel like anyway, because of the kind of person my father was.
Absolutely.
All right, cool. So with that being said, we will jump into segment number 3 titled Dad Life. And the question is, was there ever a time where you helped your children out with a project and they were so grateful? Or a time when your parents helped you out as a child with a project and you beamed with gratitude?
I don't have one for my children, and because technically, even though being 18 years old, I'm still, being paid for by my parents. I consider myself a child. The first time my parents were to check for thousands of dollars for me to, for my room and board for college, I kind of wasn't expecting it. I went to the financial aid office, and we went there, and I was waiting for the loan paperwork or something, and then my dad kind of just gave a check, and I was like shocked. I looked at him, he looked at me, and he didn't really look at me. He just kept looking forward, and I'm looking at him, and he's like, "Don't make it a big deal," type thing. Like, he's just staring forward. I smiled from head to toe, and from ear to ear. I smiled.
He had smiles on his toes.
I got a smile on my toes. That's how big it was. But
It's like grimace.
yeah, it was the greatest smile ever. But I was beaming. Like, he was like, my dad was the man. Like, when he left there, I was like, man, I saw light around him. He was the greatest thing ever. That was one time I really remember being just proud as hell and super grateful for what he did, because I know he didn't have. Obviously, they had enough, but they didn't have it just kind of laying around. It was like a big sacrifice. So that's the one time that I can go back in the memory bank and be like, man, I was really grateful for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good one, especially with college and stuff, and just being a broke college student, which I can totally relate to, because my whole thing was, and I'm sure it's probably like the same thing with most people. I have no idea, but I hated asking I never asked my parents really for anything. And I'm not talking about when I was 6 years old and asked my dad for a candy to go to the corner store. I mean, like, in my eyes, I'm like, dude, I'm a grown man. I'm 18, 19, 20 years old. I'm not asking for, so I was like, I'd rather sit here and starve.
Yeah.
And not have any food than ask another man who's grown and busting his tail off to, provide for his, for his family or whatever. But for me, I remember sitting in my college dorm. It was like a Sunday morning. I forgot what it was. And it was one of those things. I say this story all the time. We were up in Towers.
Mm-hmm.
So we're sophomores at Temple University. And I just went through my food already. I mean, not already. It was just like, it was probably like 3 weeks. It was only like $100 worth of food, 3 or 4 weeks. And so I basically I was down to like pasta, nothing else. There was no like sauce or anything. So I'm like, all right, so I'm just gonna have like buttered noodles or something for dinner.
Banging. Yum.
Yeah. And probably I don't even think I had bread, dude. I think I just ate like peanut butter off of like a spoon for lunch or something. And I was probably scraping it. So in my mind, I'm just thinking that I didn't eat this yet. In my mind, this is what I'm planning. I'm like, whatever, I'm covered for Sunday. Literally, I was in straight up survival mode. I'll figure something out Monday. I have no idea what the heck I'm gonna eat, but I'll figure it out, and I'm good with that. And I actually think at that time I had like my meal plan had one meal for a day, so I was always covered for at least one meal or whatever it was. So in my mind, I'm like, anyone can survive one meal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, long story short, I get a phone call from my mom, and she's like, "Jim, are you awake?" I'm like, "Yeah, why?" She's like, "Oh, I don't know. I just didn't know, because I know how, you like to sleep in on the weekends because you're exhausted or whatever." I'm like, "Why? What's going on?" She's like, "Oh, me and your dad are around the corner." I'm like, "In Philly?" Now, if you know my mom, she's not the biggest fan of the city.
Person, no.
It has nothing to do with Philadelphia. It's just any city.
City in
She's just uptight. There's a lot going on. It's very busy. She's super anxious. It's just not her thing. So I was shocked. I'm like, well, what are you guys doing? You want to do something? You want to walk around campus? Like, I didn't even know what. And in my mind, I was like, crap, I don't got no money. Like, I don't know, what am I going to, like, I would love to take them out to lunch or something, but I don't have it. So I was like, oh, we could probably just give them like a tour or something. She's like, oh, no, just come out front. We're parked out front. So I remember, all right, well, that escalated really fast. Went from what are you doing to we're out front. So I go running down, from the dorm room, whatever, going out. And her and my dad are just there. It was like with like this massive, like 20 bags of groceries. And I'm like, holy smokes. Dude, I remember just like getting watery eyed. I'm like, I'm so hungry. I didn't know what else to say. Like, I was so hungry because I was like,
thank you. I'm so hungry.
And anyway, so long story short, my parents like hooked it up, and for some weird reason, all I keep seeing is Raisin Bran cereal. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, yes, not just cornflakes.
Yeah,
we got some raisins in this, dude.
Yeah.
And that's how like the smallest little thing is just a little grocery, that probably lasted me another 3 or 4 weeks or whatever it was. Because I ate my food very conservatively because I knew I was like, I gotta make this stuff last.
Rations.
Yeah, I literally took 1 cup of cereal. You know what I mean? Like, I'm making this thing last. We're stretching this. But I remember being so grateful. I kept texting my mom, "Thank you and I love you. I appreciate you guys. I know you came out here super uncomfortable for you, whatever," and said that. And Dad's like, "Oh yeah." He had to do something. I forget what it was in Philly anyway. So they kind of 2 birds, 1 stone kind of thing. And then later on that night, I called them again. Dude, I couldn't believe it. I opened the cabinets. There's food. Like, so I was like,
That's awesome.
I'm going back to my dorm room. I was like, thanks, Mom. I was to say. Dude, it was just food.
Yeah, that's all it was.
Like, I was just so hungry. Like 3 days, 4 days. Like, I didn't say anything, though. I'm like, how in the world they know I needed food? And Mommy's like, well, you didn't mention anything. And we're like, at this time, I didn't have a job. At Temple, because my job was like in the summer when I went into whatever, so I didn't have nothing at Temple. The following year, that's when I worked or whatever, like plus going full time or whatnot. But at that time, I was like kind of stuck. I'm like, dang it. Yeah. So to avoid that situation ever again, I got a job.
Nice.
Oh man.
Yeah, I got a part-time job. There you go. Instead of I was not waiting for my parents to save me by any means, but it happened, and I was super stoked.
Nice.
I just remember seeing the Raisin Bran. Always cracks me up.
Well, yeah, for me, it was when I got that phone call asking if I wanted to become a barbershop owner. There was a barbershop that went up for sale or whatever, and first person I called was my dad. I'm like, yo, Pop, that barbershop we used to go to in Bristol when we were kids, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, well, it's up for sale or for rent, the building. And they gave me an opportunity to take over. He's like, all right, let's check it out. So we go and we look at it. And he's like a little kid, like just staring at everything because everything was so old and outdated.
So intrigued.
Yeah, and outdated. So he's just like in awe, like in the back of his mind, he's like, I can sense he's like, yeah, this is what we're going to do. But meanwhile, I'm thinking, I'm like, I don't, like, you have to put a deposit first, rent, last, whatever, deposit first and last rent or whatever.
Right.
And this came to, like, a shock to me right away on the opportunity where I wasn't prepared for it. I wasn't in no position to open up a business. So we looked at it, whatever, and then we set something up with the landlord where we're going to meet up again to do the paperwork because we agreed. I'm like, dude, this is like crazy. I'm saying yeah, and I don't have the full funds for it. Right. So then I told my dad, I'm like, Pop, I'm like a couple $100 short on this. I mean, if we can stretch it to sign the lease like another 2 weeks, I'm good. He's like, no, we'll make it work. We'll make it work. So we're driving home, and I picked him up, so I dropped him off at the house, and he's like, come inside. So I'm like, all right. So we're all out back hanging out, whatever, and then as I'm getting ready to leave, I see him run upstairs, and he comes downstairs and he's walking me to my car and he like hands me an envelope. I'm like, what's this? He's like, how much did you need? I'm like, just a couple $100, and he's like, well, this is enough. This should be enough in there to cover it. He had no clue of what number it was. I never said it, whatever.
Yeah.
So I go in the car. I sit there and open it, and it was like the exact amount that I needed, that I was short at that second. You know what I mean? I could have.
Right.
And I'm like, what the, dude? Like, talk about getting choked up and like,
Yeah.
whatever. Like, he made it happen.
Yeah.
So then, like, I called the landlord. I was like, we can sign this lease like tomorrow. Like
Yeah,
instead of
yeah.
waiting like a couple of days, whatever. I'm like, we can do this tomorrow because I want to like jump on it like right away. So we go. I fill out the paperwork, whatever. Now I'm like, everything in my bank account is like clean. I'm like, dude, this place needs to be redone. I have nothing. Yo, so like a week later, my dad's like, yo, we're gonna start renovating. I'm like, I really don't have like. He's like, don't worry about it. We got this. I'll get you started. And dude, he like helped me all. Like I repaid him as I went along. I was giving him money back, but most of the times he wouldn't take it. So I paid him in other ways with things and whatever. But like just that jump start,
Yeah.
yo, it was so crazy. It was like, dude, and like you said, like they work so hard for he has his whole house. He has his family he has to take care of. He has all kinds of stuff. But Pop always had like a little secret stash because he would go to the flea market and
Yeah.
put money to the side for
Yeah.
I guess things like this. Like, but dude, without a hesitation, he did it for his kids. Like he wouldn't like, dude, he'd sell his shoes or like to take the clothes off his back for anyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, just that moment, like, had no clue how much I needed. It was to the T. Like, just made things happen. And I'm like, this is real. This is gonna happen. So like now, 5 almost 6 years later, I still have the shop, and like I would never. There's more of just having a business because it's my passion, but
Yeah.
there's more into the building because of his sweat, his he's probably more excited than I was.
Yeah.
Like, so to me, that I'll never ever forget that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah, Pop was he was like that, man. He was the guy who's take his shirt off his back, you know, kind of give it to you. If
Yeah,
you
and
need it.
he did it without even saying anything to my mom. Like, she had no clue he was handing me money. Like,
Yeah.
just to jumpstart. Obviously, he told her later on or whatever, but it was just
Yeah.
like a me and him one-on-one kind of thing, which was like, for me, it was pretty deep.
Pop had that. He had that passion. It was always willing to help someone out. I remember buying my house, and he was sick. He was really sick at the time when we bought our house, and we got the keys for the house. Jess, my wife now, she was my girlfriend at the time. We bought the house, and we got the keys, and her and I and the kids are just running through the house. And I told Jess, it's like, look, I'm going to start stripping this place down. I'm going to start one bedroom at a time, ripping it apart, and, you know, getting it ready to get it suitable for us, because we only had, like, I think we got the house on a Friday, and we had to be moved out of our apartment by Wednesday. Well, that Friday night, I'm in there ripping up stuff by myself. Next thing you know, my mom and dad come through. And Pop, like I said, Pop was sick, all fragile, like he just thin as all hell. Like, just, he came in there with a hammer and started ripping down paneling. Like, we literally ripped up this room in an hour. And I don't know where his strength came from, because he didn't have the strength to do it. But the inner body, his inner strength just like came on out, and me and him worked our butts off for those 2 hours. And I felt bad. I'm like, Pop, stop. You can't, just chill out. He's like, no. You have to get this house done. You have 2 kids and Jess, like, you need to have them into this house. He's like, we need to get this done. So he really, in his head, he wasn't sick. In his head, he just knew that there was something that had to be done. And I remember that room, like, to me, that room always meant something to me, working in that room. And like, even that was the first room we started, and that was where I ended up sleeping at for the first like 2.5 years, 3 years of the house.
The first one to the right?
Yes, the smallest room.
Yeah.
We started working in that, and it's like, I won't ever forget that. And then the one, I have a dog, so I used to walk my dog up and down the street or walk her in the backyard. Our house didn't have a fence, so we didn't have the privacy fence or any types of fence at all. Like, our neighbors behind us had the fence, and on the side of us had a fence, but it wasn't a closed-in fence. And my dad and my mom go, so what are you doing for the dog? I was like, I just take her out for a walk, like walk her in the backyard and let her go to the bathroom there, and take her down the street and pick up her poo and throw it out or whatever. So the one day I went, like I said, Pop was sick, so I would go every day to visit him. So the one day I went over, and I called him. I'm like, yo, Dad, what do you want for lunch? Because I'll go for lunchtime, me and Lainey. I don't know, I can't remember what it was. So I go over there, and then as I was about to leave, the infamous white envelope comes out, and he hands it to me. I'm like, Pop, what's this? He's like, just take it. It's for the fence. I'm like, well, we got it. Like, you guys need this more. You have a lot going on, and I totally understand it. Like, we'll take care of it. We'll get the fence done. And again, I don't know where in the heck this guy gets his math from, but to the penny, the money that he gave me was the same exact amount that I needed for the fence. Like, it was incredible. Like, I didn't put anything out of pocket, and what he gave me paid for the entire fence to get done.
Wow.
So he was always like, that's why when I go to my backyard, I always look at the fence. I always think like Pops is always out there, like, because that's the kind of stuff that he would always like to be outside and stuff. So being in my house, I always think about my dad and the help that he could give at the time that he was around for it, and I will never forget that.
And I think every loving and caring dad would do a lot for their kids, but there are some people who definitely, regardless, they just go the extra mile.
Yeah.
I mean, someone on their basically deathbed is not going to let this happen. We're definitely going to get this room done. You have to be in here. And I do remember that. And actually, I was, for me, I was actually working. So for people are probably like, well, where the heck were the two brothers at? So I was working full time. Then I had a part-time job cleaning. At this time, me and my wife were getting married within that same year. So we're saving up for a house, saving up for, wedding stuff. And my dad, it was a part-time job of his too. So I actually, when he got sick, I actually did his job and my job. So I took care of his job because it happened so suddenly where he just lost all his energy and he went from one thing. So I didn't want to I felt bad for the owner. He's like, well, I don't have anybody. So I was like, no, I'll do it. Don't worry about it. And it was one of those things where, not that I'm even related to, but I didn't even think of it. It was just like, yes, I'll do it. It's not, I'm doing what, because I know my dad would have done the same thing for me. It wasn't even like a thought. I was just like, I'm doing it. I'm just telling Kel I'm coming home like 3 more hours later. So I'd be rolling up at home, 5:30 in the morning, coming home at 11 o'clock at night. But it was one of those things that definitely, I don't know. I think his work ethic, the person he was, is that I hope I could be just like a quarter of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know that's at some level, it has rubbed off. But like when someone's not here, you just try to think of like, well, how in the world do I repay someone who's not here? You know what I mean? That's the stuff that always crosses my mind and drives me crazy. And for those of you who don't know, last year I put out a spoken word album and a book titled The Motivation Files, and it was all dedicated to my dad, and it was basically accumulation of everything, our life lessons, the debts basically, and I don't mean financial, I just mean in every other aspect that I owed to him. I just wanted to give him something because I didn't know what else to do. So, for me, the idea that I came up with is, paying tribute to him in that manner and dedicating those 2 projects to him. But Pop was a special person, so it was pretty cool. So I'm not surprised at any of those 2 stories. So yeah, Manny,
I got nothing, brother. Can't follow that one.
Gabe, I know. I feel like we're crushing it with the freaking my dad stories right now.
I'll say I don't have anything as heartwarming as that, but I mean, the only thing I thought of was when I was younger, I was like 7th grade. He had to do like those science projects, whatever. It was like the big white trifold board things.
Yeah.
Science fair.
And it was like
I skipped every one of them. I failed that.
But like I had one of those things. I had like all the materials. I forget. I don't even remember at this point what the subject matter of it was. But I remember I had like all the materials. Whatever I had to like. But I was just terrible at like organizing all that stuff. Whatever.
Right.
So like my mom like stayed up late, organized everything, put everything on the board, make sure everything looked fine. She helped redo stuff if I needed to help redo stuff and all. Turned it in, whatever. Grateful that she even helped me with that to that point. Stay up late and all that stuff, whatever. Because obviously she works full time and all that stuff at that point. But then like turned it in. I was like grateful just to have it in, and somehow I wound up being in the top like 6 of the class or something, whatever it is. And I wound up like we were taken to like
awesome.
Pizza like place down the street, or like
that's awesome.
We were allowed to go out of class and just like it was like a local like pizza joint. But it was like only like the 6 of us got out of class to actually go there and do it. I was like, oh,
that's awesome.
That's awesome. I was like, wow, that's amazing. Like I didn't expect any. Like I mean, some of that stuff I didn't think anything of. I was like, oh, okay, I'm glad it's it's done. But it was like,
how much time did she take out to help you?
It was probably like she gets home probably like 4:30. It was probably we probably stayed up to probably like 11ish or whatever that night.
Right,
make
so like,
organize minus the stuff that I already had done before.
4 or 5 hours.
4 or 5 hours.
Just that night plus I was probably doing it for like a week straight anyway too. So probably the
Okay.
random stuff she helped me with, like just
I
getting
was gonna
stuff
say,
and
like,
all that stuff.
even say 20 hours.
Yeah.
But just imagine just that one project that's stuck with her son for a lifetime.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You
Right,
don't
yeah.
realize how impactful we actually are in our children's lives. I never heard that story, and we,
Yeah.
you know, we say like,
And that just randomly, like, I popped up when I was like reading like the subject matter.
Did
I
you
was
save her a slice of pizza?
I ate an extra one for her.
But yeah, I mean that it's incredible the power that we actually do have when we are lending someone a helping hand. But it's especially, you know, it's super special when you can do that for your own child, whether they realize how important it is or special it is at that time. That's really, you know, deep down that's not what you're doing it for. Obviously not the recognition, but you know, you would do anything, any right, you know, parent anyway, and they're right in their mind would do anything for their child, you know, when it comes to stuff like that. And just knowing that years later, even though they, you know, at the time, they're, oh, thanks, Mom, and it was kind of like very simple. And they, you know, they're gathering around their friends saying a story like, you know, my mom helped me with this project.
Yeah.
So much so, it was so good that we ended up going, you know, getting some pizza. I got out of school for it. And it's like, wow, like just kind of like that wave of, you know, good karma coming back. So, all right, so let's jump into, with that being said, into our next segment titled, What Would You Do? And just a quick question for the guys. What would you do if a homeless person comes to you asking for money to buy food?
I buy them food. I don't give them money.
Yeah, I would go buy them food. I wouldn't hand them the money because I don't know what they honestly would do with it.
Yeah.
I would rather know that I, you know, went out, even if you go to McDonald's, buy a cheeseburger and fries and a small Coke, I would feel better knowing that that's exactly what I bought, and I know he's going to
That's
have
what it's going.
something warm in his stomach for the day. That's, you know what I mean? Like, you helped them out for that day.
Right.
My sister, like when she started college, like years ago, whatever, it was something like that. It was somebody came up like, oh, can you have money for food or whatever? And I think her friend bought her a sandwich. She's like, I don't want a sandwich. I want the money. So it was like, so it was that type of situation where it's like,
yeah.
you know, you did right by actually giving what you were asking for, not, you know, not just, you know, giving you money because that's what you wanted, but you're saying it's because of food. So you like, you know, you're doing right on your part.
Yeah. The one time I went on my lunch break and I went to the McDonald's and there was this guy sitting on the front bench. Like the McDonald's where I went to was there was like I guess chairs and like the round tables outside and stuff like that. So there was this guy sitting out there. And I ordered my food and I sat down, and for whatever reason I sat down facing the window so I could see this guy. So a lady comes in, and I don't know what made me turn around to notice, pay mind to this lady. It was an elder lady. She walked in, she got food, whatever, and walked out. But as she walked out, I saw her walking over to the homeless guy. At the time, I didn't know he was homeless. She walks over to him, hands him a sandwich, hands him fries, and hands him a drink. And I was like, damn, that was actually awesome of her, like to come out of nowhere just to like buy him lunch. So it just so happened when I was done eating my lunch and I was walking out, and I said, oh, that was very nice of you to get him a lunch. I was like, that was very thoughtful. She's like, yeah. She's like, I just, there was something about it that God made me do it. Like, not made her do it, but like put it in her head to go help someone today. And she said, I thank God for another day, and hopefully he has another day also.
Wow.
I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy. Like, how that just happened right there in front of me on lunch break.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I used to work at a local deli there in Bristol, and you used to get part of our job or whatever was you got one meal like per shift or whatever. And I don't even remember ever seeing this guy ever again, but he came in, he was just kind of wandering around, and there's just, every once in a while you get weird activity. It's a business, just whatever, just some like goofy stuff going on. They just tell us, just keep an eye, it's, whatever. So I'm like, all right, so it's night shift, and so we're going around. I see this guy just wander. He just kept doing circles. Honestly, I don't even think he was even looking at anything. He was just like walking in circles. And then all of a sudden, I'm starting to think, like, dude, it's hot as anything in this deli. And it was a summer. Like, so you're definitely not like here for the air conditioner or something. And so whatever. So I just let him go. I'm like, can I help you, sir? Do you need anything? You looking for something or whatever? He's like, yeah, I'm looking for something. I can't find it or whatever. I'm like, what are you looking for? And he was like, he's like, oh, no, it's all right. I'll find it. Just kind of like mumbled off and walked away. And I'm like, okay. Well, it was like closing time and whatever. So this night I didn't get to eat my, on my break. I don't know what happened where, I don't know, I guess I got busy or something. So I had my sandwich, my cheesesteak sitting there like rolled up, all heated up or whatever. We're like closing shop. So whatever, I'm in the back doing dishes. I come back out. Dude, this had to have been like 40 minutes later. I totally forgot about it. His dude's still like doing circles. And meanwhile, I'm like, dude, guys, does anyone else see this guy just doing circles? Or for a whole hour at this point, this guy's been walking around the the shop or whatever. And they're like, no. He keeps saying he's looking for something. We're watching him and he's not. Okay. So whatever, long story short, I go out and I'm like, I'm done doing whatever. So I start talking to him like, dude, are you honestly looking for something? What's going on? He didn't seem harmful at all. I've never seen this guy in my life. He didn't seem, so that's what the guys are saying. We're just talking to him and they kept telling him like, we got, you got to leave because we're about to close up. He's like, well, can I leave with you guys? I'll leave whenever. So then I'm like, oh man, it's going to get weird. Whatever. So I'm like, I'll walk you out or whatever. Let's just go. I'm like, you hungry? I'm like, I didn't get to eat my lunch, on my break or whatever. He's like, yeah, that's what I was looking for, a piece of food on the floor. And I couldn't find anything. So I was trying to find something. Maybe you guys were going to sweep something up. I'm like, what in the world? Because like I'm telling you, like this dude was very harmless looking. He didn't look like he was going to steal anything. He just, I don't know. Obviously he was literally looking for a crumb.
Wow.
And I just so happened to break, and I just had my full sandwich. So I was able to and I wasn't even that hungry. You get past hungry, you're just like, all right. It was like 9 o'clock at night. I'm not about to eat this whole cheesesteak anyway. It was perfect. I remember just like breaking it in half. And dude, he looked at me with these big blue glazy eyes. Just like, thanks so much, brother. I'll never forget that. And he ran out. He just ran out.
Oh, wow.
Well, I guess he had energy, but yeah. And I just remember thinking, I'm like, what in the world was that?
Crazy.
Yeah. But I mean, there's other instances. We all went to temple and, there's a lot of opportunity to help people there when it comes to to those guys. But it is true, some people, they just want the money for other things. They don't really want the because there's locations there on site on campus where it was a like a buffet style, so you can grab extra stuff. It wasn't like you had to get like $10 worth of stuff. You could just grab whatever you want. So we would grab extra bagels, a couple bananas. When we come out and we hand it to them, they didn't want it. You know what I mean? Some of them will take it, and some will, whatever. I don't want that. But yeah, very interesting. But hey, we're all out there. If you're out there trying to give a helping hand, I guess it's really the thought that matters. Because I know I was a broke college student. That was the only thing I was able to do.
Absolutely.
But all right, so that wraps up this episode of the Rotated Views podcast, episode number 16. Helping Hand. In this episode, we discussed helping others, memorable moments of help, gratitude received as payment, and helping the homeless. We're about to wrap up this episode from quotes by the Dalai Lama and Simon Sinek. So, the first quote by Dalai Lama goes like this: our prime purpose in this life is to help others. And if you can't help them, at least don't hurt them. And the second quote is by Simon Sinek: a leader's job is not to do the work for others, it's to help others figure out how to do it themselves, to get things done, and to succeed beyond what they thought possible. Awesome. Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by The Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success. Available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyleeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@JimmyleeVelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.